I'm going to send that.
Okay. Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Connecting for Culture Roundtable presented by Film at Lincoln Center. My name is Dennis Lim. I'm Director of Programming at Film at Lincoln Center and the New York Film Festival. Connecting for Culture is a nationwide celebration of the arts. A lot of nonprofit cultural organizations around the US are participating in this initiative, hosting conversations of their own. For our contribution, we wanted to bring together a few people we consider part of the Lincoln Center family. These are 5 of our favorite working filmmakers. We've shown their work multiple times in various contexts, and they've all also been part of our Artist Initiative and awards programs over the years. So I will just start with a quick round of introductions, and I'm not sure how everybody's screen is arranged, so I'm just going to go in alphabetical order. We have Dustin Guy Defa, who was the recipient of the Lincoln Center Emerging Artist Award in 2016. He is the director of numerous acclaimed short films, including Family Nightmare, Lydia Hoffman, and Dramatic Relationships. His feature films include Person to Person, which was the closing night film of our New Directors New Films Festival in 2017. And then we have Eliza Hittman, who received our Emerging Artist Award in 2017. That same year, her second feature, Beach Rats, was the centerpiece selection of New Directors New Films. Her most recent film, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, won 2 major festival prizes just a few months ago, Special Jury Award at Sundance and a Silver Bear at the Berlinale. Matías Piñeiro is the director of 6 features, including the New York Film Festival selections Hermia and Helena and The Princess of France, and most recently Isabella, which also will premiere at the Berlinale, where it won a special jury mention. He was the subject of a retrospective, an early career retrospective at Lincoln Center in 2013, and he received our Emerging Artist Award in 2014. Next, we have Aditya Roy Barker. We have shown all 3 of Alicia's features, Corpo Celeste, The Wonders, and Lazzaro Felice at the New York Film Festival. She was our filmmaker-in-residence in 2016, which I believe is also when she wrote the screenplay for Lazzaro Felice. Most recently, she directed 2 episodes of the series My Brilliant Friend, based on the Elena Ferrante novels. And last but not least, we have Athina Rachel Tsangari, who was our filmmaker-in-residence in 2015. We showed her second feature, Attenberg, at New Directors New Films in 2011, and her third feature, Chevalier, at the New York Film Festival in 2015. Most recently, she was the lead director of the BBC series Trigonometry, which also premiered at this year's Berlinale and is coming to HBO Max very soon, next week, I believe. Mm-hmm. It is truly lovely to see all of you. Thank you so much for being here today. I thought now I'd turn it over to you and you can introduce yourselves in your own words. You don't have to do biographical stuff. You can just tell us where you are, how you are, what you've been up to.
Okay, I'll go since I was first.
Okay.
I'm in New Jersey, which is still, I guess, a hot spot. I'm in Princeton, New Jersey, where I've been living for about a year and a half. And I mean, it's not a bad place to be. It's actually a pretty good place to be during that time period. And I've been spending most of my time. I mean, I'm thankful that I can write, you know, and that I am a writer. So I've been spending most of my time writing 2 different movies. And I actually start writing another one I just started writing another one yesterday. So I'm very fortunate to be sort of working in a certain kind of way. It's not the work I necessarily want to be doing 100%. I'd rather be working with people, but I'm lucky to be writing at least. And I also been teaching at Rutgers, so I just finished that semester also.
I will go next since I was introduced next. I'm Eliza. I am in Brooklyn, New York at the moment, where I've been since we were sheltered in place in my apartment, which is also sort of the neighborhood I grew up in. So I'm very much home. I've been very, very busy teaching from home. I teach at Pratt Institute, where I'm an assistant professor. I have the fortunate pleasure of working with Matías. So we've been on Zoom calls with each other almost every day for the last 8 weeks, and just kind of communicating nonstop about, this massive adjustment to distance learning. And I've been promoting my film from home and doing press and virtual Q&As like this one, but also doing some more grassroots educational outreach with the film through Planned Parenthood. And that's mostly, and I'm home with a 5-year-old, so that's a lot. And that's how I've mostly spent the last 8 weeks.
So I'll follow. As Eliza has just said, we've been working very hard at Pratt, a lot of online teaching, online meetings, and so on. So days are filled with that. Lucky to have a job and to keep my job and to be able to keep on working, even though circumstances, of course, are of much disadvantage. And I'm healthy, fortunately. And yeah, spending the days preparing to keep on working also in the next couple of weeks. I was supposed to go to work in Spain, and of course it got canceled, but it's going to be online, and also some things in Italy and so on. So everything shaping to be online. In the meantime, I'm working on the edit of a short film that I've been working for a full year with Luis Patiño, a Spanish filmmaker, and with Jorge Jacom also editing there. So I keep myself busy with that even. And yeah, trying also to think that it's important also to take some time off, no? That it's important that we learn how to be patient and take some time off, because these are sometimes a little bit extreme. I'm in New York, I'm in Alphabet City, near the river. So sometimes I get to go there with my mask and so on. And yeah, a little bit like that, no, the days.
I'm in Italy. It's me, I think.
Yes.
And I'm in Italy. I spent all this time where I live in Umbria, in the countryside. So before, some days before the 9th of March, I just rent a studio, but I came in the studio 4 days and then they stopped. We couldn't go out of house anymore. So I was always home. And in fact, I would love to say that I was writing. I already had a movie I wrote, but in fact, if I have to be honest, in all this time I was doing cooking and cleaning and make school with my daughter and planting the garden and just trying to be in the present. Because for me, it's very difficult to program a future without an idea of future around me. I like to have an idea of my future, maybe against the idea of future of the others. But when there is no idea of future, I can't do anything. And so in Italy here was very hard. We was staying home a lot. Now it's the first week we can go out, of course, without touching each other, without... And we Italian, for us, is very difficult because we are used to touch and hug, and but we are doing it.
Athina?
I guess it's me.
Yes, it's you.
Right now we have sheltered a place in Atlanta, Georgia, with my partner Ian. Right now we're in a cabin on a lake. I'll show you. It's nice sometimes to show behind. Can you see?
Wow.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Very nice.
So we're here I guess to try to write. It's been very unsuccessful actually in Atlanta to do anything, which I actually feel I agree with Alice. My success in adapting to this was that I retaught myself how to read a book, from the beginning to the end. I had forgotten how to do that. And also, as I told you before we got officially on the call, now I'm officially a tomato grower. So I have found my true calling. So it's like 9 different varieties of tomatoes that I'm helping every morning and every evening. And that means a lot to me to be out in the country, just like in our back garden, but to work with the soil and to have a pause, because I'm very bad about this. And I think in a strange way, this order, this universal order for a pause, it's something that I'm trying to do something with, trying to be as unproductive as possible, actually.
What was the book you read from beginning to end?
I read, very fittingly, it's a book that Ian had read right before when he was in Berlin. When we were in Berlin, he was reading this book called My Year of Rest and Relaxation by
Aditya
Roy
Roy Barker.
And he said, please read that. I'm sure you're gonna enjoy it. It's about
Oh my
woman.
God, Dustin just held it up.
Really? I mean, it's like, how can you go wrong? It's about a woman who spends, her project is to spend a year in bed, which I completely identify with, since half of my life is basically being in bed. That's where I do most of my work. That's when I write, I eat. If I could cook in bed, I would do that. So yeah, I loved it. Yeah, so I read that, and then also I went back to Virginia Woolf, which is a big inspiration for how to learn how to retrain your senses and look out the window without feeling guilty. And then another book that's great is Harvest by Jim Crace, which is it's the beginning of the enclosure, the end of the enclosure in England in the 16th century, in the beginning, sort of like the beginning of capitalism, when it's the end of the law of the commons and the beginning of capitalism and trade through sheep. So yeah, so this has been my journal.
Has anyone else been reading?
Yeah, I've been reading quite some. I've been reading this, that it's some classes. It's a book about a writer, Argentine writer, the classes that she gave. So it's the classes of Eve Ward. So I've been reading that, and I've been reading Love in the Void of Simone Weil. And I also read Cleanness. It's a recommendation that someone gave to me through you, Dennis. Actually, Andrea recommended me to read it, and so I finished that a couple of days ago. And yeah, Pavese also. I've been reading a lot. Sappho. I've been interested in Sappho lately also, so I've been reading her poetry.
Sappho.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I'm thinking about doing something with that. Yeah, so we'll see. But yeah, it's time to watch and read like a little bit maniacally. It's not bad.
we don't have to go through our reading list, all of us, but I haven't.
No, cooking.
No, but well, we can talk recipes too. But no, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about some films that we are showing next week. We're participating in this digital festival called We Are One. Many festivals around the world are collaborating, and it is in support of COVID-19 relief efforts. And for our programming block, the New York Film Festival is presenting films by all of you, and also by some other filmmakers who've been part of our awards and residency programs. And it's turned out to be a really, I think, wonderful lineup that represents a very interesting cross spectrum of contemporary cinema today. And I think all your films are, films from really interesting, represent really interesting points in your respective careers. So maybe you each want to say a little bit about the film of yours that we are showing. Maybe we start with Eliza, because the film we're showing of yours is actually your thesis film, if I'm not mistaken. Forever's going to start tonight.
Yeah, it's my thesis film from my MFA program at CalArts. I made it in 2009, and I guess sort of premiered it in 2010 at Sundance. It's set in a Russian enclave of Brooklyn, kind of Gravesend, Sheepshead Bay. And it's about a young woman. It's very slice of life about her father, who kind of keeps bringing her home these kittens in the absence of having a mother. And it's just kind of about a night that she spends where she kind of comes to terms with her reality and is forced to sort of take action, where he is enabled to do so. It sort of takes responsibility for her father, and we sort of experience a night out with her and her friend where they go to a very Russian club. And yeah, it's the first film that I made in Brooklyn, actually, and the first time that I revisited a landscape from my youth and began to think about what kind of stories I could excavate from these neighborhoods that are often overlooked as part of Brooklyn.
And Matías, we're showing a medium-length film
Yes.
of yours from 2011 called Rosalinda. And I think this is actually the first film in which you engaged with Shakespeare.
Yes, it's the first film that is direct, that approaches Shakespeare in these sort of variations that I've been doing. When I started doing, I didn't plan to continue working on it, but after the work with Maria and Agustina and Alberto, the actors that are the main element in the film, I realized that there was a material that was very interesting. There was something about, in the comedies, these women, these intelligent women of the comedies attracted me, and I saw like a sort of echo in the women that I work with. And so I realized that it was just, I remember that it was for Jeonju International Film Festival. It was a Jeonju digital project. And they were asking me to send like a text, and I was shooting, so I was very busy. And I remember that there I was talking, it was the first time where I said, and I'm going to keep on developing this, even though I had no idea that I was going to. But then this echo between the people that I work with and the characters in certain of these comedies made me want to continue. So it was like, the beginning of something that I keep on developing till today. 10 years of these things.
And Alice, for you, we're showing a very short piece called Violettina, which you made sort of as part of this opera production that you staged of La Traviata, and your daughter is actually in this film.
Yes, and also una canzone?
No, we're showing Violettina, I think.
Just Violettina,
yeah.
Okay. It's just we did it with Hélène Louvard.
Yes. I should point, Hélène Louvard is also Eliza's cinematographer.
Yes.
So it's more connections.
We contend this love. So we are very, very jealous.
The reason I wanted to work with Helen is because I loved Corpo Celeste so much and thought it was such an impressive film.
And Hélène is wonderful. And once they sent me a picture of them with the same jacket, and I was so jealous, I want to kill myself. So just to explain. And no, one day so I was working in La Traviata for Reggio Emilia, that is I Teatri di Reggio Emilia. It's where Verdi was living. And so I was, when you start working in an opera, you know, it's always, you have to look for a key of the opera, an image. And I was thinking of a beautiful poem of Pasolini about Marilyn Monroe, where Pasolini called Marilyn our little sister. And so I was thinking that our Violetta of the La Traviata, that is a prostitute, of course, in the story, for me was my little sister, like our little sister, not mine, our. So I want that in the moment, in the beginning of the third act, so when the Violetta is going to die, we listen as music. We were listening in the beginning of the opera. So it's like she remembered the past. So I was thinking she remembered when she was a child. She was a child and she was doing the same game she do all the life. So in the opera, she was always doing with a flower, he loves me not, he loves me. I don't know if you do it in America, no? We normally in Italy, we use to take a flower and to do this. So we decided to film my daughter because she was there and she was helping me. That she's playing with these flowers, and then she's in a very tragic way playing with a tissue. And this is the tissue with whom after we did the costume of, it's a gold costume of Violetta in the stage opera. So it's very strange. It's not really a short, it's part of an opera. But as music, it's magic because contains many things. This music, the beginning of the third act of La Traviata contains La Traviata. So it's possible to see this little movie alone just because of the music, I think. But so it's not really a short, it's part of something. But for the first time, when I come to MoMA, they asked me to present it separate by the stage, the opera stage. So I don't know, my English is very bad, I'm sorry.
No,
but
it's not.
I hope you understood.
Absolutely.
But anyway, we did with Hélène Louvard at my place in front of my house with my daughter. So it's very COVID friendly, COVID friends movie.
Okay, Dustin, for you, we had a lot to choose from because you have been a very prolific director of shorts. I think somebody who's really sort of explored the possibilities of the form. And so we selected dramatic relationships. You want to say a bit about this one?
Yes, I actually, like most of my short, well, I would say most of the shorts I've made under circumstances of just being able to make something, like finding an opportunity to make something. And with that film, we were preparing to shoot my feature, and we needed to do a camera test because we shot the movie on film on 16 millimeters. So I didn't want to waste the cans that we were using for the test. So I just shot this short film very quickly. And because we only had, we were only using a certain amount of cans, we only did one take of everything. So it was something I had wanted to do before, and I had actually I think hopefully I would like to have the opportunity one day to make a feature using the same kind of method of just shooting, only being able to shoot one take of everything. It was very a lovely experience to try to understand how to direct in a very precise way so that we could make those takes work. And of course, sometimes we would not hit the perfect take. It would sometimes feel like the next take would be the perfect one, the one behind it. But I knew that the short itself would work if the takes were sort of not correct or they felt imperfect. Because the film is about the making of a movie. And in it, I'm playing the director. You never see me, I'm talking off camera. And and for the almost entirely actually, it is about the actresses in the film and me playing the director, the way I'm objectifying them. And it's a very light movie, but I also think I made it before Me Too, and I think the Me Too has added it's a little bit heavier, but it's still very light. That's how I ended up making it. But it was an idea that I'd had for a long time, and then suddenly I had the opportunity to make it with this camera test, and that's the film, yeah.
And finally, Athina, we are showing also a very short piece, a 2-minute film that you made. It was commissioned by Venice Film Festival, I think, for their 70th anniversary, and it's called 24 Frames Per Century. I actually looked at it again recently, and I think it's kind of a film for the moment in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the collection was about talking. Each one of us, of the filmmakers, were invited to talk about the future of cinema the way we would imagine it. And it was during the time when, the first job I had in cinema was a projectionist. So I'm completely emotionally attached to those creatures, that now are dinosaurs, film projectors. And it was almost like a pogrom of film projectors a few years ago in Greek cinemas. It took longer for them to mutate, to DCP. So I started wondering where all these projectors live. Where are they going? What's happening to them? So we took 2 projectors from the last theater who actually had film projectors, and we put them by the sea, projecting one of my favorite films ever, which is Brief Encounter by David Lean. So it's a science fiction film about 2 projectors who keep projecting the same film very slowly forever. So that's their damnation. But at the same time, their fight against extinction. And once every couple of years, this woman comes who is a projectionist to change the reels. So that's the film. And one of them is an optimist who thinks that they will keep showing films, and this woman will keep coming to change the reel. And the other one is a pessimist and thinks that next time she will not show up. So that was sort of like my existential fear and desire at the same time about celluloid and the extinction of film as material. Yeah, but the experience itself, they're just projecting out into the ocean, or like the primal matter, which could be the universe. So it's a very solitary experience at the same time. So yeah, I guess it's kind of relevant to the COVID collectivity, alone and together. Mm-hmm. Projecting into the universe.
Maybe it's a good this is a good segue to this question of optimism versus pessimism as regards the state of cinema right now, and I'm wondering how the last couple of months have changed your relationship with, your thinking about cinema, as makers, as viewers, as teachers. You've all, I think 3 of you were in a position of actually just premiering your new work just before all this happened. So I'm just wondering if this period has given you, how you've been thinking about it. Any optimists here?
As Gramsci say, optimistic here and pessimistic here.
Yeah.
Very true.
I don't know what's going to happen with the. I premiere my last film in Berlin, and I was planning on having the film show around now more in the fall, and now things are changing. Things have changed, and it's not. I don't worry too much. The movie has been made. I'm happy with the work that we have done. But then it's all this thing about the online. For me now, I'm talking a lot with my producer, Melanie, about what to do with the film and what does it mean to show it online. Is this like a gate that is being open to who knows where? I try not to be too paranoid, but also I cherish the experience of watching a movie in the movie theater. I need the darkness. I need the community. I need the people around. Even if there's like 3 people, it's interesting. The ritual I cherish, and so I wonder what would this do in the economics, what will be standing and in regard to, oh, look, now we can do all the Q&As online. Look, now we can like stream everything. And what does that mean? I don't know. I'm not that interested, but at the same time, like, we have to keep on rolling. We have to keep on moving. We have to, this film that I just have done, like, it's not the last one. No, there will be others that we have to keep on living. And also there's other priorities also, no, like the economic priorities around jobs, my job, other people's job that has to do with also theaters and like places and events. And so I'm like meditating about that, no, how to stop or to keep on moving, find places in between. Not a solution yet. Keep on moving in a way, I don't know, and taking care. No, there's people dying, and so yeah, keeping like a balance, trying to find a balance.
I could say, from my experience, movie, professionally, you go through these cycles with films, and everybody was interrupted at a different place in the cycle, maybe. And my movie was just about to come out into the world, and that was interrupted. And, I also love going to the theater. And for me, it's a way to leave my messy life behind. I don't want to watch a movie so much at home, because for me, it's hard to separate from the fact that I know I have dishes in the sink and laundry in the hamper and, this pile up of life. So it wasn't ideal for me necessarily, but at the same time, I was happy that the film got to continue this energy into the world, and be seen by people and young people and perhaps young women who might find themselves in a similar situation to the character in the film. And now I'm at a point where I'm also lucky, where I don't necessarily rely on the industry to support myself, and I have this academic life, and I'm in a moment where I get to go into this summer with a clean slate, and I get to begin to sort of to daydream about the next movie and to pick up a book again, which I haven't done in a long time. And be optimistic and be patient, I think, is what's most important, because I do think the world will recover and heal, but it will take a bit of time. So I think for me, it's all about, you know, not necessarily optimism or pessimism, but about patience.
I mean, I do feel optimistic. I mean, I'm certainly worried about movie theaters, small, you know, especially small movie theaters. And I'm also wondering and trying to understand how, you know, how, depending on how long this lasts, like, what does it mean? I mean, I don't have any new work to show, but sort of the shifting of things. How, what does it feel like not to have film festivals and to actually interact with audiences and interact really with other filmmakers, which is always how I feel like I grow a lot. And so, like, yeah, like missing new directors recently, and then if the New York Film Festival doesn't happen in the fall, I mean, like those are monumental moments in my life every year, and so not having those holes seems very strange, and I wonder how long that can be sustained without growth. You know, the growth of those things are so huge to me. But in terms of optimism, I mean, I've sort of recalibrated what I like. I am sort of seizing the moment myself, and that's why I've been writing so much, is because I decided to write something that I can make with a very small amount of people, which I'm hoping to just pull off once we're sort of able to have like 10 people together. That's sort of the idea, and so that's sort of how I had one script, I put it aside, and now I wrote something that I can make with a small amount of people. So that's like driving my optimism. But in terms of the overall arching thing, I am worried about just the business side of movie theaters sustaining themselves, and then just economics of financing and all this stuff. But yeah.
We do have some questions coming in from our YouTube page, but before we start taking them, I had invited all of you to come with a question that you wanted to pose to the others. It's not compulsory, but if any of you have anything you'd like to ask the others, feel free to. Or we can start with the YouTube.
Let's start with the YouTube and maybe
then it's okay.
Unlock.
There's some good ones. Here's a question from Hog that says, Have you binged movies by a specific director while quarantined?
Have you?
Have you binged, meaning like, have you watched a lot of movies by any particular director?
No, I can tell something. So let's say I start from, I take the question from far away, that many times I was always defending cinema as collective experience, and for me it's the best part. More than movies is the experience. I am honest. I also, when I see, you know, a movie, even a movie I did, I said, it's not, you know, I don't like so much. But when I see in a theater with many strangers, I love to laugh, to cry, to sleep, to have this feeling of being with strangers and to be part of this collective experience. So I think now everything is more clear, because now we can't go to cinema. So you don't have to explain that cinema is a collective experience, because cinema is closed. So now we know. And so I was trying many times to invite people. I live in the countryside. There is no, I can say in 3 kilometers, there are like 15 people in a circle. And I have a big, beautiful relation with all of them. I invite them many times to see movies at my place, but they found this necessity. And so for the first time, now it's illegal. And but, you know, Italy, they love illegal stuff. And so I said, now it's illegal to see a movie together. Do you want to see a movie all together? So I put the projector in the field, and now we are doing a cinema, and people came walking, so by countryside. We were like 12 last time, and we are projecting Charlie Chaplin because there are a lot of children, and we keep distance, so we are not all together, but we are together. And for everyone was like a shock, because many people for the first time discover, I don't know, how is to see a movie together. For example, we saw Modern Times last week, a movie that everyone knows already. Everyone, even the children, they know images of this movie, famous image of Charlie Chaplin into the machine. But to see it all together, people was like, what this? This is a cinema. I said, no, so the cinema is not a movie, it's an experience. So this is the movie I'm looking Charlie Chaplin.
Good
but
answer.
all together.
I've been watching films that I have like hard drives, like a lot of hard drives. And now I finally can watch them. If not, I just become a collector, you know. And I make so to keep some organization, I write like lists to watch every day of things. Where is it? Okay, it's somehow here. And so I've been watching films that I haven't seen, like Mira Kuratova's, The Ascent. Jean-France Steverin. These last days I've been watching some Fritz Lang's. What's the? It's not. Is it Whirlpool? The one with the little kid, the pirate, very long. Oh, and The Big Hit. But I've been watching things that I have that I wanted to, but I have been neglecting. So it's been great to move forward in viewings. I didn't like focus on one particular director.
I did a Hal Ashby on Criterion, who is one of my favorite directors. So it was great to actually see his movies. But I want to say something else, that in terms of what Alicia was saying about the experience, the experiential thing. I watched Satin Tango by Bellatar and Liberté by Albacera through FilmLink as a virtual remote audience member of film at Lincoln Center. And I have to say that it was a different experience, but I was happy to be watching these films that resonated differently. Both of these films I had watched before in a theater, and I was happy that I was able to watch it in the privacy of my living room with my partner who hadn't seen that. There were different experiences, but they were still experiences, and it was something that was curated for me by Film Society at Lincoln Center. And I was in Georgia. I could also have been in Greece, in Cirrus Island, and I could still be watching this. So I don't know, I feel strange about saying, although 21st century is very much about the end of film projection, I feel like it's just different experiences, and I don't think that one should be mutually exclusive of the other. Yeah. I think it's actually good. You know, I'm so jealous. You know, when I'm in Greece, in a place, you know, like Syros that basically has one movie theater, and then I see all the stuff that's playing at Lincoln Center, for example, or, you know, other great curated programs, and I cannot watch them. It's actually nice to know that I can get online during, you know, it's almost like a live event, together with other people around the world. So I hope it's okay what I'm saying. You know, that I don't want to apologize about actually loving having the option of watching that online through streaming and supporting, you know, like I want to watch Matthias's film when it comes out. I'm not going to be in New York, and I'm not going to be able, it's not probably not going to be distributed in Greece. And the thing actually that's happening right now in Athens, which is great, is that everyone is going out in open air cinemas, and cinema is basically moving outdoors. And all of these films that were going to be released in the spring are going to be released in outdoor cinemas, where everyone will be out in the open, going actually back to the beginning of cinemas in Greece, which were outdoors. And they were sort of like a family picnic experience.
But also you can do this through the streaming, for example, with Cineteca di Bologna, we were presenting movies, and now you can buy a ticket for a screening and see at your home, but in the same time of many people. So you are looking the movie all together. And even if it's not really together, it's still something.
I just want to mention that thanks for mentioning that, Athina, that we are trying to stay connected with audiences by, you know, by programming films online. I think for us, the long-term priority is still cinema as a communal experience, cinema as a big screen experience. But yeah, I think we felt that it's been important to keep that connection going. And we have a film opening this week that's actually perfect for the lockdown moment, which we did Satan Tango, a very long Bellatar film, and we are doing the Raul Ruiz Mysteries of Lisbon, the longer version of it, the 6-hour version, this weekend. And I think this will be, you know, yeah, I agree with you. I do appreciate the options available to us digitally, but the more I watch online, I have to say, the more I long for the ritual and the immersive experience of the dark and the big screen and people around. Can
more
I ask
questions?
More YouTube
more
questions?
questions.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Somebody wants to know, Danny asks, does anyone have day jobs besides directing? 3 of you just talked about teaching.
Of course. If not, how can we like stand up? And yes, I teach. I'm like tutoring for life. I'm like big tutoring, you know, international man of tutoring. And yes, so yeah, holiday soon, I hope. But again, we have to cherish a lot that we having a job, like another job, allows me to do the films that I want to do with the people that I want to work in the way that I want to work. So for me, it's very, very important, the possibility to having found a discipline that is close to cinema, and that I get very excited as well. I enjoy meeting students. I enjoy talking about other people's projects. I enjoy watching. I particularly enjoy a lot the act of watching and commenting about the film in particular, but also you talk about cinema, you know, when it doesn't matter who, you know, it's very enriching. It's a dialectic relationship in that sense. So yeah, I'm very happy. But as we're in the end of the semester, also a lot has accumulated.
Can you guys, actually, Eliza and Dustin, you want to talk about that too? I'm curious how you adapted to teaching, especially teaching film production in this difficult environment, and also more generally how teaching affects, you know, your own work.
I'll answer just quickly, briefly, because Eliza had a lot more experience. I'm only teaching like in the spring semester, so I actually don't have a fall semester coming up, and so it feels much more like a very part-time thing. And I'm not sure I'll be actually in this area for the next spring. So I may not teach again for a while, but it has been rewarding. It's been, it's very nice to be around young people who we have a shared love of film, and to sort of share that I sometimes do feel like the student where I'm learning from them, and that's a really great feeling. But Eliza probably knows more, has a better answer than me.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you know, it was such a chaotic time. I felt like there was this storm in the distance, you know, that kept getting closer and closer to our lives. And then eventually we had to sort of shut down and adapt to being online. Matías and I teach the same classes. We both teach a senior class where they were working on thesis films, and that was an easier adjustment to online because we're just screening cuts and helping them finish as best they can given the circumstances. Maybe some will go back and do more polished sound mixes and color corrections, but you know, generally from an undergraduate standpoint, you know, they always do what they can do, so it wasn't that much of a difference to just finish from home. I had also a freshman class, a fiction class, and they had to make films that you know, reflected the circumstance for their final project. So we just changed the parameters of the assignment, and some of my students made some really beautiful work sheltered in place that were little fiction films made with their families at home. And some were, you know, very impressive. And I think that those limitations that they were working within, you know, were there, you know, before the pandemic. You know, they had limitations anyway. So we just adjusted the parameters essentially. Was there a second question? Sorry.
Well, let's take another YouTube one, unless anybody has a question. Well, this one is a bit hard to answer, and I think Dustin already sort of did. From Zio, what do you think conditions would have to be to allow you all to go back into production?
Again, sorry.
What conditions would allow filmmakers to go back into production?
I mean, I feel lucky coming from I mean, like I've never really worked. I mean, the feature I did it was still a very small budget. So I've never worked with a budget that I've never gotten used to a big system or a big crew. So I feel lucky to come from a small system of working with friends or working with very small crew. So it's sort of my comfort zone in a way. So I feel fortunate to be able to say, if that's what's going to happen, of course I want to have a budget. I want to be able to work with more money, but in the instance of maybe what I'm going to do next, I'm not sure exactly what will happen, but I feel very excited about making something with just 10 people, if that's what it's going to come down to. And again, I've written a script that's purposely, you know, there is a scene that takes place at a bar, there is a scene that takes place at a bookstore and things like this, but in terms of having extras or whatever, I think we can shoot around things. But for that kind of project, I'm sort of ready to just try to figure out how to make it the moment you can have basically just 10 people together. So that's where my headspace is on that.
It's a big question, I guess, for all of us, right? I mean, I don't know. It's like a science fiction question. How do you get everyone on the set for a very long time and maintain safety for everyone? You know, can you have people touch on the screen? You know, can you have people laughing next to each other with all these droplets? I don't know. It's just it's science fiction, you know, to think of documenting, recreating life within a frame when everyone is potentially dangerous for each other. You know, I mean, how can you quarantine an entire crew? You know, I mean, I feel fortunate that this, you know, our series Trigonometry ended right on time, you know, so now we are within this window where everyone is watching television and series and stuff. I think that's, you know, that's the advantage of making and consuming television. But how we're going to go back to like creating new movies or content, as they like to say, I have no idea. I mean, for me, it's been actually nice to go back to just sort of like little handmade stuff. That's how I started as a filmmaker, and then I forgot that this is where I came from. So, you know, together with working with my tomatoes, I'm just shooting like, you know, the same way I was using Super 8 during my childhood and my young age. I'm using, you know, this, like the iPhone, sort of like making these little assemblages every day that, you know, may or may not be a film. But I agree with Guy that actually going back to sort of like whatever we have available around us to make something, you know, we are in a war zone, in a universal war zone. So somehow we have to adjust and adapt instead of trying to continue as if nothing has happened.
Have any of the rest of you been shooting in any way?
During this time?
Yeah. With your iPhone, like Athina?
No, I was shooting a little bit, but with 16 millimeters. The problem is the developing.
Yeah.
And yes, I think it's, you know, as Athina said, it's a moment also we can't move all the time. No, we have to, something is asking to stop and reflect on what is really missing, what is really necessary. So I think what happened, for example, to me, to look at what I was writing or to look at something I had in my mind with new eyes and thinking, is this really necessary? More necessary than an hospital. No, to look at the script with different eyes. And I think this can be positive, this feeling. But of course, it's difficult to imagine how we will film, because even if we are little crew, even if we work with little production, and we need freedom, we need to be close to each other. And in the same time, we need to protect families and to protect people that are more fragile. So it's very difficult to understand. I don't know. Maybe we have to go to shoot in the sky. I don't know, in a astronave.
I haven't been shooting, but I see some people doing so, and so it's somehow exciting how things keep on moving. I just finished shooting a movie No, like I premiered in February and I was shooting for 2 years. So if there's something that I didn't want to, was to keep on shooting. But that's an egoistic standpoint. I think that, again, I agree with all of you really much, like from the idea of being small, but also the idea of like stopping. No, there's a moment where we should like embrace stopping. No, there's and like understand other ways, research, change directions. It's an opportunity. If we are healthy and we have a roof, it's an opportunity to open new things in ourselves, you know, like to think and see new things. So I'm trying to be there. Then, as I said, I'm working on an editing, and sometimes it's hard to sit down and like to focus. But then I find that it's very thrilling and very joyful to connect again with images and sounds. So yeah, a time for everything, but not actual shooting, not intending to do so either. I don't have the anxiety to keep on shooting in that sense.
The only things I forgot, sorry, because I was shooting just because I had some expired film at home, and I have a Zoom. So I thought I can't go closer to my neighbors with my body, but I can use my Zoom. So I did a lot of shooting with the Zoom, like from far away. So this was also very funny because in fact, I thought maybe we have also a magic way to go closer to people, the Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not this Zoom, but
not this, the Zoom.
No.
because yeah.
All right, we are almost out of time. So does anybody else have anything, or if not, we can take one last question from what has been streaming in. So anybody want to go, or I'll find something from the.
I think that it's funny, the poll of questions, to see what comes out from it.
Okay, let's go with this one, which we can answer in any number of ways. From Kush Srivastava, do times like these make you question the purpose of your profession?
The purpose, full stop.
Of your profession.
Yes.
I question.
Yes.
But I mean, I don't know. Doesn't everybody question everything?
Yeah, exactly.
All the time.
I question the purpose of everything.
No, but I mean, you know, it's also like what Alicia was saying. You start questioning, like, are you essential or are you non-essential? You know, am I an essential worker or am I a non-essential worker in a situation of a pandemic or a war or, you know, this kind of emergency, you know, apocalyptic, like what are we supposed to be doing? There is, you know, there's like an onslaught of spectacle right now online, you know, it's so much that in the end, yeah, I mean, how do you guys feel? I mean, I'm overwhelmed by how much stuff there is everywhere for us to consume.
I agree with Athina. I want to say what I do is essential or not, but also how many not essential stuff was very important in my life and made me grow. How many non-essential pictures or art or music made me feel what I am. So also not essential things are important.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I agree. I really think that has to do with for those who can't do it, it's a moment to stop and reflect. I think that it's interesting, this idea of consumption, of the idea of consuming, like the need to reflect upon that. Something of slowing down, like the subversive action of slowing down and thinking about new possibilities and for all of us, like it's a very general thing what I just said, but a moment of stopping, you know?
I think having doubt, I think I've already sort of like pre-crisis already went, I mean, I go through all the time doubt about the profession, but I've already, I think the crisis actually given me less doubt in a way, because I find such, my need of watching things is greater, and maybe I shouldn't be watching things as much, but I find the relief and just the gift of looking at different kinds, just looking at the world, instead of just being in my house and not being able to see anything, being able to watch the world through movies, feels very necessary. I mean, it feels nourishing right now. And so I think that's sort of giving me more of a purpose than I usually actually do have. I mean, not at the beginning of the crisis, I felt completely useless, but now I feel a little bit rejuvenated by thinking about how nourishing it is to be able to be, like, I'm so happy to be able to look at other, like, be able to like travel the world from my home more than ever now. That's what it feels like to me.
I haven't had a moment of stagnancy to really begin to question, just because of teaching and promoting and all these things and taking care of a child, that I haven't had moments sort of for this existential crisis. But as my plate begins to empty a bit more, I am thinking about how to be more community minded and, definitely what I can do in this moment.
Great. Well, those were wonderful answers from all of you. I think we should wrap it up. But I just want to remind everybody that you can watch on YouTube, as this We Are One Festival, work by all these filmmakers. And also, Matías, your film isn't out in the world yet, but Eliza, your feature is available to rent online still, I believe. And Athina's series, Trigonometry, is HBO Max. And I think you can track down work by all these filmmakers at the usual places. It has been really, really good to see all of you. This has been a lot of fun. And I want to thank you all for being part of this conversation, and I'm looking forward to seeing your work on the big screen. I'm looking forward to being back in the cinema with all of you before too long. So
good to see each other's faces. It was very nice.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.